we talked about the roster freeze, which goes into effect at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and it runs till February 22nd. And then, not long after that, the actual NHL trade deadline is March 6th. So a lot of teams would like to get some business done before 3 this afternoon. And Kenny, the big one that's out there, and they touched on it on Insider Trading last night, is Artemi Panarin. As Chris Drury sent out a letter, another letter. Rangers did the letter a number of years ago. And then they got Panarin, who wanted to play in Manhattan, and they got Adam Fox, who wanted to play in Manhattan. And then they won the draft lottery while being technically a playoff team. But I digress. See if it goes that well again for the Rangers after the letter. But now Artemi Panarin, they let him know, listen, we're not bringing you back. 34 years old, still a point-a-game guy, tremendously talented player. He has a full no move, makes just over $11 million a year. He wants an extension. So they're obviously working with the agent and Panarin and trying to see if there's a fit with other teams and can we work out the money. Chris Johnston reported last night on Insider Trading that one team has stepped up with $40 million. So I would assume that's a 4-year deal.
Yeah.
That's been part of it here. So can they make that work? I don't know. I asked Frankie this question. I think it gets done. I think there's some motivation here. If one team has stepped up with that kind of an offer, now it's all going to be about Panarin. Where do you want to be? That's the other part of it. But I can totally understand. The Rangers just want to be done with this. You're not going to be here. Let's move on. And if you can absorb what's left of the cap hit this season, and the Rangers, they can eat some because it's only what's left of this year. That should help facilitate to make it happen. When you add all these things up, I think he moves. I think he moves before 3 this afternoon.
It would make sense. Chris Johnson had that report about $40 million being offered. Elliot Friedman was saying that he and his representatives wanted 50. So that's a large gap, whether it be for 4 or 5 years. They wanted $50 million total. That was the number that was thrown out. So are they waiting to see if somebody else will step up and get closer to that number? Is 40 good enough for a guy who's 34 years old, looking to be closer to 40 by the time the contract ends? The team who is acquiring him with no knowledge base about how he fits is taking a huge gamble. It's the same as, well, it's not the same, but it would be the same as if Rantanen, he ended up signing with Dallas kind of sight unseen, but if he had signed with Carolina and it wasn't a fit, and it was just square peg, round hole, just not fitting in.
And a much younger player.
Yes, and so the acquiring team is going to be getting a hell of a hockey player. Panarin still has it. He is still a very, very good hockey player, but you're kind of hoping and projecting that he's going to fit into what you do. And you're still committing a lot of money, whether it be, well, it's going to be 10 plus per year to a player that's going to be aging sight unseen within your organization. It's a tough one to do, and trying to get the assets back and trying to figure out exactly what you can part with for that player is going to be difficult. So if I'm New York, do I want to get it done? Absolutely. A, I want him off my payroll before this Olympic break. And B, yeah, just I want it over with. I want to be done with this saga and not have to deal with it during the Olympic break and leading into the trade deadline when you probably have other moves that you want to make if you're the New York Rangers. If you're going into this retool, rebuild type of mode, you're going to want to do other things.
And that's the big one. I'm just curious to see if there's any other moves happen here before 3 o'clock this afternoon. Like it's not a real deadline because the actual trade deadline's March 6th. And it still will matter to teams. The cap's not flat anymore. There's more room in the system. So, but you'd rather not pay a guy for a couple weeks when nobody's playing. And also, if you're going to acquire a guy now, because Russia's not going to the Olympics, Panarin's not, but would you trade for a player that's going to the Olympics right now if you're a team? Like that'd be a tough pill to swallow.
I might want to wait.
Got hurt.
Yeah, I might want to wait just to find out and make sure that he gets through it safe. Now, did you see Elliot Friedman's little drop on his 32 Thoughts pod yesterday?
No.
Where he mentioned that he thinks Ottawa is up to something, but once again, he wants to get more information before he says anything about it. Like Elliot Friedman, for him to drop that ambiguous, it's just he thinks they're up to something.
We sunk our teeth into this quite a bit yesterday. And this is just educated guess on my part, and we've been talking about it for weeks, if not months, about what you should do. It was our web poll question of the day. By the way, we should update that. Where are we at with the web poll? Where are we at to this point? We'll have a new one towards the later in the show. But it was all about what the Senators would be willing to do to fill a spot on the team that's obvious in that this is already a good team that's underachieving points-wise. But if they could find a way to get that quality, lock, stock, and barrel, top 4D, that's a right shot, and our question surrounded Yakimchuk or asset like Yakimchuk, would you make a trade like that? Would you put that on the table if you could get a Mackenzie Weegar? And I'll throw, if you could get Colton Parayko, does that do it for people? Like, the real one is, like, I don't know if he's available. Alan Walsh kind of threw some cold water on this on X a while ago. Philip Ronick with the Vancouver Canucks, right? Would you do that? And at this point, I've stalled enough for me to find it. Good job by me. Would you part with a premium future asset, brackets Yakimchuk, for an impact right D with term? Yes, 62%. No, 38%.
Everybody likes trades. Yakimchuk is that unproven. You have got yourself, well, really, right now, you're not too sure exactly what you've got there, but you've got yourself a young talent that's got a lot of skills. He's got a lot of tools right now, and he's a big body. And I know he's not a today guy. And the Sens are, although Steve Staios said, hey, we'll contend when we're ready to contend. That's what the GM says.
I think that's more, I don't think he's lying there. He's not, right? But I think that was more of a public consumption statement. Steve Staios isn't stupid. The organization, everybody making the shot, calling the shots here. You have to look at where you're at. Where are we at with our roster? What's the age of our core? Who's signed and who's not? This team's a right now team. They are. Whether you want to really admit that publicly or not, this isn't like, hopefully we're good in a year or two. You've got Pinto was the final big signing there. Batherson could extend this summer. He's still got another year. You got a couple more years of Brady and Shabbat, and Sanderson's locked up, and Stutzle's locked up, and Allmark's got 3 more. Like,
I guess
this team isn't about maybe next year or maybe the year after. You know what I mean? Like, it's you don't do anything stupid for a rental right now. You don't do that.
You're right, but
You don't.
Is this going to be a cap team? Is this going to be a cap team that's going to spend the amount of money that it needs to spend? Or is it a team that is going to need to have some young, extremely talented prospects, skilled players that you're going to need to dip into this lineup to help offset, some of the higher salaries that you have on the team?
To me, this is going to be a cap team in season. Like, if they were in a much better spot than they are now, if their point total matched their analytics this season, then you become air quotes, you become a cap team without really being a cap team. You spend the cap at the deadline. That's when you're picking up rentals and you're like, all right, let's use the space that we have. But really, you're not spending up in real dollars being a cap team. Succinctly, they're not a summer cap team.
They're a playoff cap team.
The Senators will not be after July 1st, and you get into July, it's like, well, they spent all their money. It doesn't make any sense to be that team. They're not.
No.
Now, maybe when they get a new building eventually and they got more revenue streams and what have you, maybe. But they're not. And that's the way it was before. Ottawa's a small market team. And there's other teams like that. Like, we got so accustomed to everybody being a cap team because the cap was flat.
Yeah.
The whole league there was no room in the system. We're going to go back to the way it used to be, where there's going to be teams that are always spending and getting super creative to spend and spend and spend, like the Leafs and the Rangers, right? Teams of that ilk. But there's going to be more than a handful of teams like, yeah, you know what? We'll spend when we're good towards the deadline, but we're not going to be an off-season cap team. That's not what we do.